I'm a lazy, lazy human being. And cheap. And my parents' dryer has broke. I have 2 loads of laundry I have to go get dried. I'm gonna go bother Mike. Hi everyone, and welcome to Best Podcast Ever, where 3 idiots you don't know talk about a hobby you've never heard of. And today is a very special episode, because rather than having Kevin be the third member of Best Podcast Ever, today we have the dryer, if we all just stop and listen for a moment. And believe it or not, even though we're in Mike's house, that is not Mike's laundry.
Yeah, no, that would be Brian's laundry. In fact, I'm not sure why the urgency to make this week's episode on Monday, Labor Day, rather than on Friday as we usually do, but I'm guessing it had something to do with the desire to use the dryer.
There's totally no video you haven't seen, Mike, that will explain why this happened.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not that. Maybe I should figure out how to convert my dryer to coin op.
That'd be the ultimate time just to have the sound of coins bouncing off the dryer.
It would be, but all I have instead is the sound of my ice-filled water bottle.
So, is this already planned now? We're going to start in the weeds? This way we'll just naturally start talking about
I think
cars?
When we start, not in the weeds, we just end up in the weeds. So I think if we start here, there's nowhere to go but up. I think that makes perfect sense.
Putting the bar on the floor so no one's surprised when we trip over it.
Yeah, pretty much. And, laying out a nice gym mat to sprawl out face first onto. That's the goal.
That is the official BTE way. Also the official BTE way, 130-second racing, which is coming up soon in our local hobby shop.
Yes, it is. We are, about 2 weeks out from that? Or 1 week out.
1 week out from that. The last HO race is this coming Friday.
Will be this weekend, yes. And then next weekend begins 132nd season. And I might have had a hand in planning the schedule, so I can intentionally miss a race I don't care about.
I don't know. What are we doing the night of vintage NASCARs?
No, that's a ways off. I guess we'll be making an episode then.
Making multiple episodes and banking them.
Yeah.
It depends if Kevin can be here, truth be told, because as much fun as we like to make of Kevin for his constant truancy here.
Yes. And his constant tangents. But as you can hear from the awkward pauses and lack of, just general fluidity so far.
I was burping. I was letting you go on a road for a little bit.
Yeah, to his credit, Kevin, if you're listening.
Who else is?
You fill the space with the things you say. And what more can you ask of a friend than that?
To be the only decent tuner between the two of us.
Yeah, I mean, there is the fact that all of our best cars are just copies of Kevin's setups. Yeah.
Which is, again, why we like 132nd season and we're heralding it so much, is because we can copy what Kevin does in 132nd season. You look at the parts, you buy the parts are not rare, the parts are not sought after, they're common, on NJ Hobby's wall.
Right, yes, you don't have to murder anyone and hope that you can inherit their parts. You don't have to establish a tontine with various other racers that the last person to die gets the tough one brushes.
I found the last pair of AJ's Eagle Golden Claws. I'm going to use them in every super stock race. Actually, fun tangent story. Do you know why AJ's, even though it is still a company out there, it's owned by REH Distributing, cannot make their old products that they did in the 60s?
No, I don't.
And it's not because they don't have the machines, it's because nobody knows how to run the machines.
Really?
They still have them, they just have no idea how to use them.
I mean, like what products though? I mean,
mostly rubber tires, because you have to vulcanize them. So how long is that? What do you put in it? What's the mixture?
Oh yeah, well the mixture would be good to know.
So they have the machines, they bought the company outright.
Right.
But they just don't know how to do it.
So they didn't buy any mix sheets or anything that said what the compounds actually are?
I don't know that much of the story. If I had to take a stab at it, I would say it was they went to AJ's and they say, okay, we're going to buy your name,
Yeah.
we're going to buy your stock.
Right.
And AJ said, this company's worth nothing. If you want to give us more than nothing...
Yeah, it's all yours.
Yeah.
Wow,
Which is how RH
amazing.
probably made most of their collection. But they've been a major distributor of slot car stuff forever.
Yeah. They distributed Parma, right? They were distributing Parma?
They were one of the people who distribute Parma.
Yeah.
Parma, another one that we've gone over multiple times, where
Yes.
a divorce ruined it, and now New Jersey Nostalgia Hobby, NJ Hobby on eBay, which we might as well mention because they're the only people remotely sponsoring us.
Yes.
As in, they're remotely close to us.
As in, they exist, yes.
They gave us the tape for Best Track Ever, and by gave, I mean I took from the stock room.
Yeah, well. Hey, Joe.
I
know
he
you're not
doesn't
listening.
remember this at all. I mean, I'm sure I'd get a good talking to if he ever listened to any of this. You can't be saying that.
Well, I think we adhere to our no-names rule. We only bash companies, not people.
We didn't even bash the last two companies. NJ Hobby is, again, where we all go every Friday night, so if you want to meet Best Team Ever in person, feel free to do that. Also, feel free to go to our, a Teespring page?
Yeah, interestingly, I neglected to post it on our bestteamever.info site, but you can go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/teambte. You know what? I'll post it on the main site before this goes up. Fingers crossed. I'll remember to do that. But you can find it on our Facebook page and in the description of this video. Or if this is in the future when I've gotten around to putting these on Bandcamp, whatever. But if you're watching this on YouTube, then check the description. Our merch is there.
I don't know. This is also going to be a little look into the behind the scenes here. The first episode that I edit, upload, and post. So maybe I'll use one of those boxes.
I don't. You know what? I think YouTube just eliminated that.
They eliminated those?
The annotation box. Yeah, I think they got rid of that.
I mean, you question why they exist.
There's an alternate feature called YouTube Cards that still exists. It's a little bit. You can do more with it, but you can do less with it. You have less control over when it shows up and for how long.
Oh, neat. Good.
Because it just slides in from the side of the video. You can't put it as a speech bubble coming out of somebody's face, that sort of thing.
Internet, you've ruined everything before we got anywhere near it.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, this is very exciting new territory for us with BT merch existing.
BT merch existing, and there's going to be a shirt in the future which I'm going to pressure Mike into making, which is how you become an official BTE member. So again, show up on Friday, wear your official BTE merch. Yeah. And be the saddest fan club.
Yeah, wow, that'll be... you'll be the saddest fan club, but you will not be the saddest people in the room.
Is it HO season?
No. That's true.
I mean, considering that the alternative joke for last week's end card was HO season is over if you want it. Which is the most morose way of saying. I
think we were talking about doing that for this week, but now that you've spoiled it, you might as well just skip ahead to the end of the episode, because now you know what it says. So.
Was it supposed to be this week's episode?
Yeah, that was what we talked about.
Mike, you know not to trust me with things.
Yeah, way to go with the spoiler.
Again, for the 8 people who listen to this, I've ruined the joke.
Yeah, sorry. We'll come up with something else, I suppose.
I mean, it's going to be me putting it there, so it's going to be whatever I feel like. It'll just be a picture of Chip Ganassi. I mean,
no, that's true. Yeah, so our unofficial mascot, Chip Ganassi.
Can we, I feel like we need to make him into a chipmunk or some sort of animal as a BTE mascot, wearing a BT hat or something.
Yeah. I don't think he would like that. He seems to be an angry person.
I'm about to say, do you think he'll ever hear any of this?
No.
Do you think he'll go into the podcast where we talked about slot cars for exactly 40 seconds in the 8 minutes we've been talking?
My goal is to, have him acknowledge us in some way.
Then we win.
Yeah, I mean, that way might be running us over with a golf cart, but, it's something. We will have got the attention of the chipster.
I don't know, does he have a Jazzy? I feel like he's a man who owns a Jazzy.
No, he's not there yet, but... No, he's a man who has to do whatever Roger Penske does, and Roger Penske was the, early king of driving a golf cart around the pits, so Chip Ganassi has his own golf cart. Roger Penske is bald, Chip Ganassi is balding. So.
I mean, so there's that. I mean, if you're really going for the gold, I suppose that's one way to do it.
It's one way to do it.
Yes, so 132nd Racing, and we've beaten this topic into the ground. We actually managed to have a little bit of pull as far as what New Jersey Nostalgia Hobby is racing this time. So if this becomes a locally viewed podcast,
Yeah.
and not one that's mostly viewed in Europe,
Correct.
for reasons I'll never understand.
I don't know. I really don't know. I don't really know what the appeal of this for anyone is. So.
Well, we're 10 minutes into it. We were guaranteed that no one's listening to us anymore.
Okay.
So, Mike, why don't you go over a little bit, because you did design a couple of new races this year. What was your thought process behind creating these races?
Yeah, well, so much like in HO racing, the more stock, and actually much like in real life racing, when you try to keep costs down and limit development, you find that people end up just picking the 3 or 4 things that they're still allowed to work on and just beating the hell out of them. And, the development curve is that much steeper because there's not all the low-hanging fruit is gone, right? It happens in HO racing where stock T-Jets is the class that people put the most work into for the entire season because there's so few things you're allowed to work on that you just have to massage everything you can out of the 3 or 4 things you can work on. And, that tends to happen when you're racing 132nd as well. So, in recent years, we've had a recurring race that was supposed to be beginner-friendly that was stock scale extra high impact. And the idea was that these were cheap cars, and you could take them out of the box and put them on the track and go little car, go, and have a race. But realistically, first of all, because scale extra and because, manufacturing tolerance is the size of the car, you were pretty much screwed unless you got a good car out of the box and chose the right body style out of the box.
The scales were tipped from the word jump.
Yeah.
Because there were multiple cars that were just better designed for high impact.
Yeah.
Than others, because there were a handful, Lamborghini Gallardo,
yep.
Ferrari
430.
Yeah. That didn't have an interior. They just had kind of the blacked out windows.
Right.
And then as Scalextric continued to be the company that makes all the right decisions but continues to lose money,
right,
they ended up taking some of their higher detailed cars and making them high impact by just making the plastic windows black.
Right.
But including part of the interior that we'll never understand.
Yeah, it has to be some sort of automation thing where it was just easier to go through the assembly process.
Plastic, yeah.
It must have been that for their assembly process, it was just more streamlined because these could go probably into the same stream with the detailed ones because, body, interior, chassis, body, interior, chassis, body, interior, chassis, instead of saying, oh, this one doesn't get an interior. But I don't know what the reasoning is. But yeah, if you got the Audi R8 GT3, you were pretty much screwed out of the box because it also, like a real GT3 car, has a wing that is wider than the car, which meant that if you were in an outside lane, that would be grabbing the guardrails and grabbing other cars and grabbing everything. I mean, I actually ripped the wing off one driving it in a straight line because it grabbed onto a guardrail on the track.
Which in our local rules state that all you have to do is start with a complete car. So it's really to stop us from having to wait 10 minutes for someone to glue their car back together if something happens.
Right.
But you can also show up and just take parts off for speed and lightness. But no one has ever done the technically legal, crash and turn one and then hit your car with a hammer a couple times and then put it on the line, which again would be legal.
That's true. Or just removing the parts, technically, if you started with them. Don't try that, kids. Cheating is terrible. So, one thing that I really, lobbied a bit for, and we had talked about it during the season last year, was replacing that recurring race with something where less tuning is actually necessary. So we're going to do that as a doubleheader between vintage rigging, and we can talk about rigging in a minute, and then for the first half of the season, at least, the second race of the doubleheader will be the slotted DTM cars. No magnet, but otherwise stock. We found last year when the Alpha 155 came out that, it was a fun car pretty much as stock with the inline motor. And they're slotted, they run out of the box. So, and now there's the Opal also.
So before we move on to like Riggin and the Opal and the Alpha, one of the reasons why the High Impact is getting killed is because, like you said, they started to do so many things to it that it was not even remotely stocked. So there is a 10% tire shave rule it's virtually impossible to enforce.
Right.
Because every car comes with a million different things.
Right. And again, because, trying to enforce a rule like that on Scale Extric where there's probably more than a 10% tolerance from the factory.
Yeah.
This car has square wheels.
No, the moment I was done is when I saw people were putting super glue on like a toothpick and creating like rock hard fronts.
Yeah, no, people were actually building subframes essentially in the front end of the cars to get the chassis to stop flexing.
And I was like, this is...
Which, that's something we do in some other classes, but it's ridiculous to be doing that in a class where the purpose of it is I can walk into the store, buy a car, put it on the track, and be competitive.
And I enjoy winning as much as the next guy, but I really have to question your motivations when you're putting hours and hours of work into a stock class.
Right.
Now, the classes that have more to it,
a
different topic we'll talk about in a moment, but that's why box stock high impact Scale Electrics got canceled, or really was reduced to once a year.
Or cut back to, it'll be the opening race of the season.
Of course, because it's the easiest one to sell to new people, but...
Right.
It just was nowhere near as beginner-friendly as we would like it to have been, which leads us into rigging, which I can't wait to see what these guys do to this car that no one tuned, not because you can't tune it, but because it was only once a year and nobody cared.
Right, yeah. I don't know how long this will last as a viable stock class for the same reason, because you can tune one, it's just a pain in the ass, and when we were only running it once a year, I don't think anybody wanted to take the time. I think we'll see what happens. For those of you who have never seen a rigging car, it is a brass chassis car with a Lexan body and a large commercial-style can motor. It looks pretty much unlike anything that we race nowadays in 1/32. But handling-wise, kind of a fun drive. You can throw it sideways and have the brass chassis save you a bit. At a glance, there's not much you can do with it, but it's the only 1/32 slot car I can think of, for instance, where you can actually adjust the brushes. So, right there out of the box, stock is going to become stock in air quotes.
We talked about it a little bit, too, with Parma. So, Parma is really where rigging evolved into. They evolved into... And I did look this up. I was really hoping this was some sort of abbreviation or initialism. But they're called Womps. Specifically, Womp Womps. That's the Parma official...
Because that's the sound that comes out of the world when you raise Wiggins.
But...
Let's have a stock race. Womp Womp.
I can't wait to see Womp parts. And the reason I had to explain what a Womp was because... I can't wait for Womp parts to start showing up on rigging cars. What? I bought it like that. I totally bought a rigging from 1988 with Womp parts from a year ago on it.
Of course, obviously.
This front end that says Parma on it.
Yeah.
It's not a Womp part. It's not a Womp part at all.
No, clearly not.
And thank you, Parma, for making me say that in a serious way.
Womp Womp.
And... what scares me even more is the Slot.IT race. Because, again, those cars are great, and they're even, and they're fun out of the box, and there's a 0% chance people are not going to be screwing with them.
Yeah, hopefully, and I'm sure that I have failed, hopefully I wrote the rules in such a way as to rule that out.
And the rule has always been as well, and again, we're mostly talking about how to build your own rule class here.
Yeah.
If it's not stated on the sheet as you can do it, you cannot do it.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense if you're writing technical regs for any competition, whether
But then there was, and again, no name rule, and not that he listens to this, there was the moment of the Cartrix F1 cars, where there was a full custom front end in those things.
Right. That's true. Yeah, I say that about if it doesn't say you can do it, then you can't, but in practice, it doesn't really work that way.
Yeah, and I suppose, and this is something you guys should do out in internet land that NJ Hobby has really gotten lazy about, is teching.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like actually opening up the car and going, what is this?
Yeah. Because come to think of it, like, gluing the motor pods and slotted. We've never really addressed whether that's legal. We just
started doing it. Well, one of the racers found out that it really did help the car exponentially.
On a wood track, yeah.
And then we just were like, oh, okay, I guess we're just going to start gluing in all of our motors now.
Yeah.
Including box stock, which is, totally how they came.
Right.
Out of the box.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a gray area that we didn't address. We finally resolved Braidgate, I think. Really, realistically, I don't know what advantage you gain or give up by, taking out a Scalextric braid disc and rewinding it with NSR braid or what have you. I mean, the front end setup of a Scalextric is just so broken that it frankly doesn't matter. The braid is the least of your worries. I mean, that's not the problem.
It's weird that that's the hill a lot of people have chosen to die on as far as box stock is concerned.
Yes. Is that, I'm going to change everything on the car except the braid, and I'm going to say this car is box stock.
The braid are holy, but allow me to dip these tires in this chemical concoction that is probably an OSHA violation.
There's actual green smoke floating out of it and forming skull and crossbone shapes. Yeah, if you've ever walked into a slot car track area when people are racing on rubber tires, you would think that you had walked into like a gym in 1970 when everybody was using oil of wintergreen to keep their muscles soft.
Or even just now Bengay.
Yeah, well, that's the main ingredient of Bengay.
Yeah. It's...
Yeah.
Slot car racers are weird people, Brian said on Labor Day in a friend's basement.
Yeah, talking about slot cars.
But really, that's what you should keep in mind when you're trying to build your own classes. And I've always had, in my mind, and Mike probably has a different opinion, that classes fall into two categories. Mm-hmm. First category is box stock.
Right.
Which, in my mind, not in practice, is you take it out of the box, you put it on the track, pull the trigger, go.
Makes sense.
And the other one is open.
Yeah.
And open is, at least in my mind, we say how many RPMs the motor is, how you get there is your issue.
Right.
And then we give a body type.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, we're done here. So,
I think that's perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, we're going to do 1980, LMP.
Yeah.
25,000 RPM, go nuts.
Yeah, because you know what? For instance, a lot of the classes we have been running the last couple of years, especially in the non-magnet category, but even in magnet racing, there are multiple manufacturers that make cars that fit a general body type description. LMP especially. Group C is sort of Slot.IT's domain. GT1, LMP, those are ones where you have a little bit more competition. And, frankly, whatever whatever you want to run within those limits, I think that's really, it's possible for the cars to be competitive. We've seen it. Cars of multiple brands to be competitive against each other. And frankly, if you pick one and it sucks, better luck next time.
Or, if you're Mike, you proceed to put in twice as much as the car's worth into it in parts, trying to make the Lola work.
Well, I never actually ran that in that class before. That was a car I just happened to have.
Yeah.
I had bought that car when we had talked about doing, I'm looking at it right now. Hi, Frank and Lola. When we had talked about doing the open fly race a few years ago, I had taken that car out of mothballs because I had bought it to run stock. It was a fly 10th anniversary repro of the Mark Donahue Penske Sunoco Lola. And I'm sorry, Fly, but most of your cars really not good out of the box.
Somewhere there's a man behind a curtain going, there is no fly here, only madness.
Yeah. So, at one point I had tried just like throwing a slotted motor in it. Didn't really help because the chassis ultimately was the problem and that stupid independent front that Fly used. So then I put a straight axle through it. And then, just this year, I did find a 3D printed chassis to fit the body. And we're going to go racing with that and see what happens.
Or you could buy a Slot.IT. So, again, you can get as far into this as you want.
Yeah, well, exactly. And you know what? I will probably still get beat by stock Slot.IT GT40s. Well, stock, but Slot.IT GT40s that have been built to these rules. But I had fun building something different. And
that's what I did a couple of years ago. I never ran, like, even though if I own them,
yeah.
because, like, who doesn't own a Slot.IT GT40?
I actually don't, oddly enough. Which is
one
a
person
strange
on the
thing
planet
that
who
I don't
doesn't
own
own
one.
the Slot.IT
When you come down
GT40.
to it, it's weird that I don't own one. Because I love Slotted and I love GT cars, and it's a good car, but I actually don't own one.
But me and you were in the same boat with... We're going to make the NSR 917 work.
I just wanted the NSR 917 to work because it looks so cool.
I own two of them.
Yeah. I mean, it just looks so cool.
I bought the blue Team Austria car, and I bought the green Sandman car because they look so cool.
Right.
And I was like, I'm going to make these work.
I couldn't even tell you what doesn't work about it. Like, it just doesn't work. I think it's just a weight issue.
I think this was before NSR started making really good chassis, and I think they did make that body.
Yeah, because nobody else that I can, well, other than Fly, that I can think of, has made a 917 in one thing.
Yeah, that goes down as one of the few bodies that NSR actually made versus just...
The body weighs a
out.
ton. I mean, I think that's the biggest problem.
Yeah.
And as is the case actually with the Fly Lola, GT cars at that time had to have a spare tire, and they provided you with a spare tire by actually putting one of their tires, sticking it to the underside of the body and saying, there's the spare tire the 917 came with. So they took this already enormously heavy body and made it heavier. So, I mean, that doesn't help the weight distribution, obviously. You know, all of the space frame that you can see under the... Oh, there's the dryer. All of the space frame that sticks out
That
under
is a
the...
long buzzer.
Isn't it, though? And that'll be the first of several, because it gives you, like, a warning buzz. This is for people who like to take their clothes out of the dryer before they get wrinkled. I don't care, because I just live with them, iron them, whatever it takes. I just don't like emptying the dryer. What was I talking about? 917. If you run an NSR 917 in a non-magnet class, you can say goodbye to the space frame members that stick out under the rear of the body.
Yeah.
Within like 2 laps, they'll just be gone because you'll get sideways.
You'll get rear-ended.
Someone will go under you, and it'll be over.
Because everyone else's car is also shaped like a wedge.
Right. Yeah. A GT40 or another GT40, because that's mostly what people run.
Yeah, or the Alan Mann car, or...
Oh, yeah, the P68.
The Mark IV from NSR.
Right. I've never seen anybody run... What was I about to say? Does anybody make a Ferrari 512?
Fly did.
That's right, they made the long tail one and the
Yeah.
short tail one. And NSR has never made a long tail 917, right? They only make the 917K.
They made one that had the little winglets.
Yeah, but that's a short tail also.
Yeah, I don't think they ever made a long tail because that would require them making a whole new mold and not just putting little dots on the mold there.
Right. Le Mans Miniatures made the 917-20 Pink Pig, but you wouldn't race that, so...
I think yours is okay to race. My dad's was actually made in France, so it's like the handmade resin, so the moment you crash it, it's going to... Like, where all those cuts are, it will actually break.
Yeah, it'll... My first attempt to do anything with a handmade resin body was the Bauer VW 1300 Fastback that I tried to turn into a T-Jet Terror. T-Jet Terrors is a Class We race where you take a street car body and turn it into a dirt car by hacking off, pieces of the body.
Taking the fenders off and putting screen where the windows should be.
Taking the windows out. And again, it was a class I always enjoyed building for because it required some creativity, unlike most of the T-Jet classes. But I guess I got a little too creative with that because I was left with a pile of blue dust when I tried to cut the fenders. It was amazing just how it ceased to be when I tried to cut into it. That's
what happens when you take an Indy to a VW. It just...
Yeah.
That's another video we have to release. I have it on my phone.
What's that?
It's an Indy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's kind of the gist of create your own leagues for either your local hobby shop or your friends to get around. That's really all we're doing is we're laying down a set of rules that people find creative ways to ignore.
Yeah, and I mean I guess in some cosmic sense, that's the spirit of, racing, is that you stretch the rules to their absolute breaking point and get the most out of it that you can. So I guess you're doing, what racers have always done, but don't be annoying about it. Like, seriously. Like, if you're racing with a group that races probably 20 relatively open classes in a year, don't show up to the one stock race and, bend the rules to their absolute point of absurdity. I mean, the point of a stock race is to make it easy for people who haven't raced there before to get a feel for it. Don't be a jerk about it.
I am the gatekeeper. No one may enjoy my hobby.
Yeah, some, 8-year-old kid who got some slot cars for Christmas, begging their parents all year to let them go to a race. Finally, the stock race rolls around where they can just literally take the set cars from their Scale Extra set that they got and put them on the track and race. Now, fine, if you want to say you shouldn't expect to win your first time out. Okay, fair enough. But you're running in a stock class. You expect to have, not just get your ass handed to you.
You shouldn't be collecting 1s and 2s all night.
Yeah,
if you're staying on the track.
Right. I mean, exactly. But you shouldn't be finishing heats, 50 laps down. It shouldn't be, in a 12-lap heat. It just shouldn't be happening. It's not the spirit of the rules, obviously. So the solution to that, I think, was to get away from some of that because people just weren't respecting it anyway. So
I don't know. We'll certainly have some form of podcast during 132nd season.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how we fit them in, right? Because we've been essentially using the time that we were not using to race HO to do this. The dryer's still done.
Is that the real one? Oh, no, it's still going, isn't it?
It's still going, yeah. In my experience, by the second one, it's usually fairly dry, but it keeps going just to keep the stuff from getting wrinkled, basically.
Cool. We'll let it bang one more time, and that'll be the end of this particular episode. So.
That works for me. Some other stuff coming up. We're going to be racing Slot.IT Group C with magnets, which we haven't done in a long time. I've never done, actually.
I still have a Jägermeister set up for that.
Yeah, I set up a Skull 956 for it. It's actually pretty quick. The Longtail 956 is terrible as a non-magnet car because the wheelbase is too long. The 956 wheelbase is slightly longer than the 962 anyway because that's the difference between the... I'm sorry, slightly shorter. So forget what I said. The problem is the wheelbase is too short and the car is actually longer. So the handling is hairy at best in non-magnet form. But with a magnet, it's pretty damn quick. I can't really test it that well here because I have it running so low that it's grabbing the rails everywhere.
Yeah.
But on the wood track, I'm expecting great things from it. So
I have so many things I've tried to do in the past that none of them have worked out.
Yeah.
That poor Can-Am car, the Slaughter.
Oh, yes, the Slaughter Ferrari 312.
And I realize I just made air quotes on a microphone, but essentially...
Well, I think it was apparent in your voice, yeah.
We have a Can-Am class where it's just open cockpit, wedge-shaped, whatever you want.
Yeah, so it's a little like that's an Indy class.
Yeah.
In that it was decided at some point, and I don't know if this is true, throughout the slot car world or the world of, car guys who are street car guys and not race car guys. But it was decided somehow that any open cockpit race car that does have fenders, so any open cockpit car that's not an Indy, is a Can-Am. So the 312 PV is not a Can-Am car. It ran in the World Sports Car Championship. It had a 3-liter Formula One engine. It would not have really done very well in Can-Am, where you had unlimited displacement at your disposal. But anyway.
Right, I think we'll leave that as the logical place to end this mini episode. I'm going to see if I can make some sort of annotation that says, hey, if you want to skip the weeds parts, go to 10 minutes.
Yeah. Well, you can put it in the description.
Oh, I can? Wonderful.
Yeah.
Or I'll fail miserably at this, and you're about to see the ending of last week's episode put on this week's episode. Well,
cool.
We're about to see what's going to happen, but guys, thanks for coming out and listening to us. Again, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Again, if you comment, we've been known to make entire episodes based around your comment, so... That's
true. And don't forget to check out our merch. We have two category or 2 designs up as we speak, and we'll probably have a couple more up before you hear this. Running off some of our various running gags in the show. And if you have anything else you'd like to say, let us know.
Right. Bye, everyone.